Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's My Opinion. I'm back. I got Marcus joining us for more reviews, and hopefully, we'll start more on a weekly basis. This episode, I'm going to do the independent films that are out in theaters. I'll be reviewing Chef, Begin Again, and Wish I Was Here. The first movie I'm going to start with is Chef. Chef is a movie starring Jon Favreau and, let's admit it, all of his friends. He wrote it, he directed it, and everybody that's starring in it are all people that he knows and loves. The story is about a chef working in a restaurant making fancy cuisine, and he gets reviewed badly, and he realizes that he's lost his passion for the job. So his wife, in a manipulative way, played by Sofia Vergara, is convinces him to start a food truck and make Cuban sandwiches, and he gets his sous chef best friend John Leguizamo to tour the country with him and his son, and he finds his passion again. That's the basic plot of the movie. It's so much more than that. While it's a story of a chef who finds his passion again, it's also a story of a father who tries to rekindle his relationship with his son. And his son is very our current generation of children who are very tech savvy and are very social network, and makes his father a big hit. So it's a wonderful story. It's got great music in it. The good, I think everything about this movie was good. The highlight of the good was the people that are in it. Robert Downey Jr., Oliver Platt, Amy Sedaris, Dustin Hoffman. All these wonderful people play these wonderful roles and to tell this wonderful story. So my good is definitely that they got the ideal cast, and they're all of John's friends. So they've all worked with him before. They've all done stuff in some way, and they all love John. So considering that John wrote it and directed it, I'm sure it was done as a favor to him, and it certainly made the movie entertaining. The bad, I think the one thing that's bad about it is, and it's light, but it's the story is two different halves of one. So you see the chef struggling with his passion for the love of food, and then this other half of the movie is his relationship with his son. And while those two really go together, when I saw it a second time, because it was good enough to see a second time, I realized that the beginning is kind of slow, and it's not really until you have the happy ending that makes the movie kind of take off and burst, and makes it as good as it is. So, but that's the second time around, and when you catch it as a whole, it's actually pretty really good. The only ugly to this film is that you get to watch all this food being made and you don't get to have any of it at the end. I know friends who purposely saw it next to a Cuban sandwich place so that as they're drooling throughout the whole movie, they had a place to go eat afterwards. As pricey as it was worthwhile, because you're craving all this wonderful food. I mean, you're watching him cook it, and you spend several minutes just watching him prepare food, and you don't get to taste any of it in the long run. So that's the only ugly, which isn't really a down point, other than be sure to eat afterwards, have plans to eat afterwards. This is one of those. Great independent film. I was a real big fan. Next movie on the list was a huge favorite of mine. It's out in theaters now. It's called Begin Again. Begin Again is another independent film with the writer-director John Carney, who was the writer and director of the movie Once. In a lot of ways, this is a somewhat sequel or a second storytelling of Once in a lot of ways. Begin Again, starring Keira Knightley and Mark Ruffalo, is the story of a young, struggling singer who meets a producer, and the movie is spent collaborating the two talents in making an album. It also has some really cool other people in it that you wouldn't expect. Mos Def, Adam Levine, and Katherine Kerner, who's a great actress who I absolutely love, plays a bit role. And the daughter is the amazing actress Haley Steinfeld, who I remember from True Grit, who blew us all away with her sassiness, and she shows up in such a great role in this film as well. There is so much good about this movie that I loved. It is a heartwarming story. It has got great music. Keira Knightley actually singing her own songs. Adam Levine, who I am a huge Maroon 5 fan, got to sing quite a few songs as well. It's hard to pinpoint one good thing from this movie, as it all really touched, specifically it touched my heart. I'm a huge music person on top of movies, so to just like once have this connection with it again, I really loved. It's hard to have a good, bad, and ugly with this film because there really isn't a lot of bad, there really isn't a lot of ugly. My good for this film is the parallel that it is with Once. There are so many similarities there are with Once. It's the same storytelling of a guy and a girl who are in a rut, who make music, who decided to get together and make music together. There are similar scenes where in Once there is a studio scene where the music really takes off and it's really powerful. Everybody starts to feel the music, and you're just like at the end, you're like jamming. There's an exact same scene on the rooftop in this movie where they all start playing together, and as they make it all the people start to get involved, and it just jams on and on and on for a few seconds. It's the same build up. It's the same story pinpoint. And both similarly, they're both platonic relationships. And with both movies, it's interesting to have platonic relationships because typically, as a movie plays out, the boy and the girl are obviously attracted to one another, and then you start to root for them to get together. And in both films, Once and Begin Again, they walk away from that potential and say, you know what, let's just make music together and be really great friends, which always baffled me about Once, and it baffled me again about Begin Again. Another parallel is both movies are making one album, and they both make that one album with random musicians off the street. They both do that, except one's in Ireland and one's in Manhattan, New York. So, that being said, though, it didn't make it a bad thing. I liked the similarities. I guess if there's a critique about it, is just that he only knows how to write one story. There was things about it that I connected with it musically, so it tugged at my heart personally, more than I think most. I saw it twice. It's another independent film that I saw twice. It was worth watching a second time. When I went with the second crowd, they said, I can see why this is your movie. So I don't know if that makes it, if my review is really out there for the open, because it's really just my opinion that this was such a good movie. But to throw it out there, the bad is that it's a little slow, and I didn't notice that until the second time around. It has its pinpoints, it has its pickups, it has its flow, but it staggers kind of in the middle. But the acting makes up for that. Mark Ruffalo, Katherine Kerner are fantastic in this film, and Keira Knightley is always great. She's certainly not a Kristen Stewart. She's certainly not Blank. She had a unique role in this, and then she took on a very great romantic role, which it wasn't Jane Eyre. It wasn't, what it was just her being very cutesy and sing-songy, and it's something I've never seen her do before, and she earned a lot of respect with me because of that. The ugly, Mark Ruffalo plays alcoholic, struggling alcoholic in the beginning. There was but it was so well done that it was kind of hard to watch. Me being somebody who has alcoholics in my life, there was lines in there that I've seen used, and there were things that were hard to watch because it was so real. It made it hard. The character has a lot of redeeming qualities and has a happy ending, but it was hard to watch, but it did make me, again, earn the respect of the actor Mark Ruffalo, who has always been a very blank canvas for me. I know a lot of my friends are big Hulk fans with Mark Ruffalo, but he has always seemed very blank to me. Even in The Kids Are All Right, he didn't wow me. He wowed me in this one. It's the first time I've seen something that I could relate with that made him earn a lot of respect with me. I thought he was amazing. My last movie to review is Wish I Was Here. Writer-director Zach Braff, 10 years later, makes his second film since Garden State. He co-wrote this with his brother Adam, and it is starring Zach himself, Kate Hudson, Joey King, Josh Gad is also in it, and Mandy Patinkin plays his father. I'm a huge fan of Zach, and so Garden State really, really changed my life, and so did this one. This one hit a lot of points. Where the last one was the 25-year-old, this one is certainly the 35-year-old, and I could relate on both levels of where he was in his life then, where he was in his life now. It's not a personal story, but it is a lot of personal stuff in him, and writing this with his brother certainly brought that relationship out in the movie as well. It's not an exact telling of his life, though. This is about his father, who doesn't support him as an actor, and his actual father actually really supported him and his brother in the arts. He was very encouraging. The story also focuses a lot on his religion, on his faith. I think on another level I could relate with that as well, because as a 35-year-old adult who grew up Christian, you certainly at some point in age wonder, what your faith has been based on all this time. And you have different eyes on religion when you're an older age that you didn't have when you were a child. I think in the movie Dogma explains it best, that when you're a kid, your glass is small, so it's easy to fill up, but when you're an adult, your glass is bigger, and that faith is harder to fill up. Great movie if you've never seen that one. Also, as a total recommendation. Kevin Smith is a fabulous writer as well. But we're talking about Zach at the moment. Wish I Was Here is a movie about Aiden Bloom, a 35-year-old man who finds himself at a major crossroads, which forces him to examine his life, his career, and his family. The good. The good was how personal the movie comes across. How Garden State very much dealt with the death of his mother, and this movie is associated with the dying of his father, and his relationship with his brother. And while it wasn't my story, I felt that there were so many things that I could respond to, I could relate with. The wife and the husband struggles being a married woman, and raising these children with different aspects of faith than you have in yourself. While they weren't my kids, and while it wasn't my husband, and it was still something that I could relate with, that I felt a part of, that I felt that he was talking to me, I thought was very much the good in that film. The bad. I've read a lot of odd reviews about Wish I Was Here, and a lot of people were disappointed in, being fans of the Garden State and wanting to see something better from him, and him not providing something different. This huge film was supported by Kickstarter. A lot of his fans funded this so that he can make it his way, and the reviews that I've read is we funded this, we wanted this, and you didn't give us enough. So I mentioned that these other reviews because that's the bad for me, is I got exactly what I expected from Zach. I've officially run out of time. My toddler is driving me crazy. The only ugly I can say about this movie is that there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough story of the relationship with his brother. There was There's a bit of it, but I would have liked to have seen a lot more heartwarming. There was Jim Parsons played a small role. I would have loved to have more Jim Parsons in the movie. He's just great. Josh Gad played his brother, won a costume contest at Comic-Con, and I would have loved to have seen Comic-Con play more of a little role in the movie. I think we got a teaser with it with the Kickstarter video, and I thought it would play a more significant role, but there was some great scenes, there was some great well-written things that Zach brought to it, so there isn't a lot of bad or ugly about this film. I highly recommend it, especially when it starts to spread like wildfire, but I imagine as an independent film, it will do more with fans and it will do more on DVD sales than it will out in the theaters. But I wish Zach all the luck, because of the 3 independent films, this one was certainly one of my favorites. So that's my review on independent films. There will be more. Marcus is coming, and we're going to have some more dual reviews, and I'm hoping this continues back once a week. I miss you all. Please comment, please like, please check out our new website. Yeah, let's get this updated. Let's go see some movies. And while you may not love them as much as I do, remember that's just my opinion. Thanks so much. Bye.